Hi.
We're finally ready.
You didn't see what happened before, but now we're ready.
We're here. Hi.
I'm Kara.
I'm Chris.
And we're the Midnight Babes. I'm going to start off by saying I'm bummed that we're recording without our new Carnage gear that I ordered.
I know. Oh, I was so excited about it. She found some really good on Shantel's website.
Some sick Carnage merch. I mean, all of the merch was good, but I ended up getting us both a shirt, and then I got the hoodie, too, because I was like, I just can't wait. Yep. And then last night I was like, looking at the tracking numbers, and I was like, they're not going to be here for recording. And I was like, so upset. I was like, but go check out her merch because it's great. It's fun. It's fabulous.
I'm going to get a mug or, like a tumbler, and then they have some stickers and a phone case. I want a phone case.
Yes.
Because I want the Tyson's property?
There's fun stuff out there.
Yeah. So today we're talking about Carnage. Finally.
We read it. I did have to go trick-or-treating, but the second I came home, I opened that bitch up and I was like, let's roll.
Yeah. When it first hit the Kindle, I was like, reading it.
Let's
and then
go.
Went and did some trick-or-treating for like an hour and then came back, and that's
all I did.
I was up until like 2 or 3 in the morning. Like, trying to read it. And it only took, because of work and kids and whatnot, it took like 2 days.
I was going to say, we blasted through that book.
We were just texting and just going.
I mean, my face was like this the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I think I say this every time we talk about Shantel. The way she ties the books together is unbelievable. And I know she said, like, you don't necessarily need to have read the Lord's books to follow this one.
But it really, like, brings it together,
if
honestly.
You have, yes.
Because they do come in at a certain point within these books.
Multiple times.
And it
just really, like, bring things together for you. Yeah. So that's, I find that so fun when, like, we hear about a scene with, like, Riot or Sin and Tyson, and I'm like, oh, shit. And, like, yes, it's a standalone book, but if you've read the Lord's books, I think it's better. Yeah, because it really plays back to when the Carnage boys came into those books, and how they came into the Lord's lives and vice versa. It's almost like we get to see both sides of it after reading Lords and Carnage. Yeah, because there's definitely, they know what was going on with Whitney and them, with Tyson, because Tyson brought them in, and that Sin comes back into Carnage.
So. And then there's like there's a part where it's like 4 years later, and you're like,
what?
So now we get to move forward and learn more about what was going on. It was a blast.
I guess we'll go into trigger warnings and then we'll just get like chatting.
Obviously there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean just like read them before you buy the book. Warnings. Like this one does like the huge branding, bondage, praise, kink, non-consensual, forced sex, kidnapping, trafficking, breeding, physical, emotional trauma. Yep. I put this as a trigger warning that I was low-key annoyed that part 2 was 4 years later. Okay? Yeah. I don't think that's a trigger warning, but I was just, I was like, oh.
But it's still such a trigger because you're like, what do you mean 4 years later?
What happened? Because you just kind of like left you off, and she brings it back. But I was annoyed when I wrote that. And then I need therapy after reading the last 20% of this book.
Yeah, like if you were on our TikTok and you see, like, we posted a TikTok where it's like, oh, you're happy, like, chapters 1 through 53, and then 54 and on, it's just,
me in real life, because it was emotional. I was
Oh, yeah. I was tearing up. I was like, you are not doing this to me right now. Like, you are not doing this to me.
Shantel does a great job.
Yeah.
So, I guess we can kind of, like, talk about the Spade Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Because, in the previous books we've talked about the Lords, right? But these are the Spade Brothers. I do want to say I feel like the Lords ain't got shit.
No.
The Spade Brothers, like...
Their initiations are baby. They're just like their baby
compared to what the Spade Brothers go through. And if you think about it, like, they take on the Lords who are, like, no longer wanted, right? Yeah. And that, like, the other Lords want gone, and maybe they don't want to kill them. They want to just torture them forever.
Yeah, they need to go to prison.
They go to Carnage and deal with the Spade Brothers. So, like, to me... I was like, oh, this is a whole different ball game than what we were talking about with the Lords. Mm-hmm. With similarities, because they're like a specific kind of Lord. Yeah. And they know this growing up, like their dads ran Carnage.
It's a passed down position, really.
So kind of like the Lords, right? If your dad's a Lord, like, and you're born into the family, like, you're either going to be a lady or a Lord. Same thing here, except, like, you're expected to run Carnage.
Yeah, you're expected to run hell.
And you don't really, like, get a woman.
No, and I've noticed, like, if they have a daughter, they're just there.
They're just
like,
there.
The daughters aren't really
involved or do anything.
No, it's not like when the Lords, like, they're expected to become a lady or chosen.
Yes.
That's how I was reading it, at least.
Yep. I also put, like, a Lord is strategically placed out into the world. Yeah. But no Lord is safe from their own if they break their oath. Mm-mm. The Spade Brothers will make you believe in hell, essentially. Yeah. If you're caught by them, they collect the names that are given, and they will erase you from the world as if you never existed and make you wish that was the truth. Yeah. I was reading that, and I was like, oh, so, like, damn. Mm-hmm. They're the Lord's jury and executioner. So, again, I feel like they have this, like, higher power over the Lords, almost. Like, they're invisible, but, like, you only know about them if you done fucked up.
Yeah, because even, like, with the Lords will go after other Lords. Like, that's part of initiation. That's just kind of how it is. But, like, if you really fucked up, then we get Carnage involved.
The Spade Brothers are coming for you. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, like, they can come for me. But I ain't a Lord.
I ain't a lady.
So, that's fine. Uh-huh. But, yeah, like... I mean, it was interesting kind of seeing the difference. I thought that was fun that she gave us detail, too. Yeah. She even touched on the Lords again a bit. So, like, again, like, it can be a standalone book because she does this. But, again, it's more fun if you know what's going on.
Because then how she writes some chapters and, like, some scenes is one of those where it makes you think back, wait.
I've read really this before.
And now you're seeing it from a different side.
POV. Yeah. And that's what's cool to me, like getting both sides of the story, if you will. I want to talk about Carnage because we had like heard about it in the Lord's books, but we didn't really get a description other than like it looked like hell. Yeah. It is they have like an open arena with like a stadium seating, like 2 stories. It's like a city. It's described as a city of its own. Yeah. Thousands of acres in the middle of nowhere. Like, okay.
Okay.
They have their own cathedral. It's similar to the Lord's.
It's like a mini one.
It's like a mini one because, I mean, they're not as big. There's only 4 of them. There's lots of Lords. So,
they have their own hospital wing.
Yep. Devin is the doctor for Carnage, which, if you've read the Lord's books, Gavin is their doctor, and surprise, Gavin and Devin are freaking twins. So I was like, that was funny to me. Like, I was like, oh, that's hysterical, and they pointed that out. I was like,
Gavin will come in and help Devin in certain situations.
Yes, if it's a bad doctor situation, we're gonna tag team it. Yeah. So, I did want to note, like, Jesse is in Carnage as, like, somebody who just, like, helps out around the house. Like, we see him, like, opening doors, but he's kind of
He made me feel more of like bodyguard / butler.
Yeah. So like we hear about him often. So if you hear us talk about Jesse, that's just kind of his role.
Yeah.
And I do want to also talk about women are no different from men. Like, if you're taken to Carnage, the punishment is going to fit the crime. Yep. We don't care about the gender. Like, the Spade Brothers are going to do what they're going to do.
Yep.
And they're serious about, like, the punishment must fit the crime.
The crime. Yeah. At least they do that much, you know? It's like everybody, yes, you're going to get punished for what you're doing, but it's going... The severity of it
is going to really depend on what you did.
And we will mention, like in the previous books, obviously, I'm gonna forget her name, but the wife came in, found out she was pregnant with Sin, and then she was pregnant, and they were like, children are not meant to be here, and that's why
they kept her until she's gonna have the baby.
Yeah, and then I was like,
hell yeah,
you know, like, at least you have like a standard. At least, because like that baby is innocent.
They realize that, right? Yeah. And they know that the baby is going to go to a good home once it's birthed. So like, there are so many things. Like they keep Whitney down there. They fucked up.
Yeah.
Like some of the scenes are absolutely brutal to read, and like we'll go through and like talk about most brutal and like the sexiest. But like some were brutal to read, and I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before we recorded, but like the good mix of like pew 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 and then sex is like it's nonstop where you're like I'm stressed out about the situation and then you're like I'm not as stressed. Well, now I'm turned on and stressed. I'm kind of scared. I'm nervous. And then you're like, all right, we're coming back down. You're like, oh my God. Like it is a total just like of emotions, honestly, and in a good way.
In a good way. Because it makes it, I feel like when books are written like that, it makes it a lot more entertaining because I don't want to DNF. I don't want to just put it down and come back to it.
I'm totally sucked into that world when you grab my emotions like that. Yeah. I'm very like tied to the characters and their feelings and I'm like hence why like the last 20% of this book I was just like a goddamn wreck.
We'll get there.
So main character Saint
baby,
he ain't no saint.
No, he is not.
I just imagine like this tatted guy,
honestly, the guy that they got on the cover.
Yeah, looks. That's what I was seeing in my head, and like a sick bicycle helmet and a bike, like make my engine go. Saint goes through like a journey similar to the Lord's.
Yep.
We see him like right away, like strung up in this stadium, right? And he's like drugged. It's like his freshman initiation. So like again, it's different from the Lords. Like they have an initiation and like a test every year, if not all the time. They're being tested.
Yeah.
That was the vibe I got, and I was like,
And it's a lot harsher because they have to be put through like what their prisoners are pretty much going to be put through. Like they have to be able to
their
mentally
limits,
and physically handle those.
Mental, physical, spiritual, all those limits are like tested and broken for them. Which like made me feel like you
can't really be mentally stable to run Carnage, to be honest. Like come on.
No. I mean, and then we hear like sophomore initiation was the pits where they brought in. So there's like pits like dug into the concrete and then you're like caged in, right? Mm-hmm. And it like floods with like ice cold water at like minutes at a time and like dude claustrophobia.
Oh yeah, because like how they describe it is like it is like what she was saying, pit in the floor, but then there's bars, but those bars are still a little bit lower than the actual pit.
Yeah, so you can't even breathe if you had the chance, yes, and it gets long, it's deeper, and it's longer time each time. Yeah. Like, and I mean, this shit is cold. Like, it's throwing into like hypothermia. They're like seeing shit if they're living. Like it honestly. Was.
Well, and that's one thing, like, with Saint is, and they say this right off the bat as well, is, like, that's one of his biggest fears is drowning.
Because his mom tried to, like, drown him in the tub as a child. And I was like, well, okay, that explains why you're not mentally stable and why you're running Carnage. But it was nice that she gave us that background piece because when that scene was then happening, I felt all the more like fucked up about it.
Yeah, because like you don't know about that until after the scene, really. But it makes you look back at it like, okay, well, one, that whole initiation was just fucked in the first place. But then you read about his mom doing that, and you're like, oh my God.
Yep. The senior year oath. Whoa. When they like tied them to like the like, dude, it looked, in my brain it was like witches tied at the stake for branding.
Yes.
And I was like, reading it was stressful.
Yeah, because they get branded as well, but it's not with the Lord's
it's
brand.
It's the 666. And it's like rough. Well, I mean,
and speaking of being the branded, I love that when they get the prisoners coming in, they have their own, and they're like, no, now you're initiated, and they also get the 666 brand.
Yeah, so like they'll rip off like their Lord's crest, and they'll put a 666 over it. Like you're now a prisoner of Carnage, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
It's badass, but fucked up. You know? With like the whole book.
Yeah.
We learn about like quite a bit. Like the first chunk of the book is like learning about Saint's journey and his initiation. And then like we kind of hear about Ashton.
Yeah.
And like the first time we really see her, she's like at a party with Whitney.
Me?
And I was like giggling, you know. Again, I was like, okay, well that's funny. She's kind of like trying to be like a little whore to Saint, and she's like trying to get his attention.
Being
like in her
pool.
swimsuit. Yes. She gets purposely fucked up at the house party to like tease Saint. Like Ashton knows she's gonna be a chosen, but like she wants to be with Saint because they've known each other their whole lives.
Yeah.
So like at first I was kind of like, and then I was like, okay, that's fine. Because when they talked about it, I was like, sibling vibes, but not.
Yeah. I was a little confused at first about that, but I also love that now we get to know about the whole issue with Saint and Ashton and all. Like, I like that we're getting their backstory.
Yes.
The fact that Ashton wants and like is putting it out there, like, I want to be with you, but Saint's like, I can't
do that. I gotta run Carnage. Yeah,
I can't show any of this, even though he wants her bad.
He does, like,
real bad.
Even talking, you know, with his dad about it, he's like, I want her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that's fun. That whole like house party. Like Sage just like takes her home when she like purposely gets fucked up, but she tries to like, you know, do stuff with him. He's just like, I'm taking your drunk ass home. Like he like drops her off at her house. I was like,
he's like, I can't, not yet. But I think also, I know it's gonna be mentioned a little bit later, but with Ashton, and I think, wasn't it said that she purposely had to be a virgin?
Yes. And I want to say, like, I have it written down here somewhere, but, like, she was supposed to be a virgin for whenever she was, like, matched or, like, found that person. So, like, she's going to, like, therapy with her mom.
Because she's a sex addict.
Yeah, so it's, like, homegirl watches porn.
Yeah.
But she doesn't, like, she's, like, not, she's a virgin. Like, so I'm like, how are we gonna, how are you a sex addict? Like, I mean, are you a porn addict? Like, that's different.
Yeah, well, I think it's because when her mom, her mom.
It was a piece of work.
Yeah. Like, later on in the book, I understand kind of where she was coming from, but at the same time, like, but making her go to therapy with her mom, and the therapist being like,
the therapist was uncomfortable. Like, she didn't believe that she was a virgin.
Yeah, they both didn't. They're like, you're watching porn, you're doing all this, you obviously are going out there and having sex all the time, and Ashton's here like, I'm not, but you want the boys, the men, to be able to, they like, know what's with the
double standard?
Yes, all of this stuff is like, I'm curious, I want to know.
And good for her for questioning that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would. I'd be like,
I was like, why is it wrong for me to like want to learn and want to know about? Like, I know I need to stay a virgin.
Yeah, but the guys still get to like self-pleasure and watch all the shit they want.
But she's not allowed.
She's not. So that was interesting.
She's watching like everything under the sun. And finding out what she
likes and what she doesn't like, and boy, does she like some stuff.
She's like, the more I've watched, the more desensitized I've become.
Which,
I mean, that's the thing.
I was gonna say, like, I can, like, personal, but I can kind of like relate to that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you go down like certain rabbit holes, right, and you're like, oh, that was hot. Is there like a different version of that dude like you? And then you're like, well, that's not working for me now. Yeah. Like. Maybe I find something else and I'm like, whoa, am I going down a rabbit hole here? But what's nice about these books is like in the sexy scenes, you're kind of like, I don't need to watch porn. Like I am ready
you're right
go.
There.
Like let's, like, babe, come upstairs. So like, but this was a interesting book with like the degradation, I guess,
and the humiliation.
She
definitely had those kinks.
Yeah, and like, so I guess we can kind of like lead into that because I don't want to spoil the whole story, right? Like, obviously, Saint and Ashton get together. Okay,
we knew that prior with the Lord's book.
Yes, that this was going to happen. Like, because he's looking for her in one of the Lord's books, right? So obviously they get together and something goes awry. But like before all of that happens, like I have some notes, like when Saint made Ashton ride his leg to get off because they couldn't fuck.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I so turned on about her dry humping his leg? What? Like,
no, but I love it because then afterwards, Saint leaves, walks out, is trying to walk out the front door, and then boom, her dad is right there.
Right there.
He's just like, well, this is awkward because there's a big ass wet spot on my leg.
It's like, whoopsies.
And he's like just talking to her dad.
And there's cameras in Ashton's room that we learn later, so like they definitely saw her just grind. That was a sexy scene though. Like it sounds silly like afterwards, but like reading it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, but because like you also know like he can't
do anything, and like we're hearing it from kind of both their POV, and then it's like they're both so fucking frustrated.
I'm like, I'm frustrated for you.
I feel like Ashton is frustrated. Like 99% of the book, she is like not pleased. She is sexually frustrated. She's like, somebody get me off.
Like, and Say's over here like, not yet.
He's like, you gotta wait, bitch. I'm like, oh.
But then also like on his POV in the back of his mind, he's like,
I want to. Yeah, he's like, I want to,
but I'm not gonna let her win.
Yes. So like, I don't like the first like 100 pages. There's when Saint punishes Ashton in the woods with the belt for ignoring his calls. 11 swats for 11 missed calls.
And the brothers.
Yes.
Were there too.
He like shows her that he like wrote Saints like written in Sharpie across like her lower back.
Saints whore.
Saints whore, I believe. Yeah. And then like the brothers got to like watch. Mm-hmm. So like we have like Hayden and Cashton. And
can I just say, when we say brothers, they're not technically
brothers, but all of their dads have run Carnage together, so their dads are brothers, and it's passed down. So like they're family like friends brothers.
Yeah. Like you get to the point with your friends, and then you're pretty much
and this
family.
Is they're cut off from everybody else, like outside of the world, because they're doing such a dark thing. Yeah.
And also mentioned Ashton's brother Adam
is also
a brother.
Not a lord, but a Spade brother.
Yeah,
which was weird, and that's why I guess that explains why Ash is introduced into this world. Yeah, because her brother is going to be a Spade brother. So that was interesting. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, because when we hear about the Spade brothers in the other books, we only hear about three. we don't hear about Adam.
So we get to know more about that later on in the book.
Which we'll let you guys have fun with that, because that shit threw me for a loop. That was part of the sobbing, like...
Yes, and there's a part, like, there's a specific scene where it ties into one of the other books that you don't really think about. But then you're reading it, and you're like,
I've read this before. No.
And I just remember texting you like, oh my God.
I was like, this feels so familiar. So it was great. But yeah, there were so many like sex scenes, dude.
And
like
Saint shares.
Yeah.
But only like specific things.
Like they aren't allowed to like come inside of Ashton. I believe that she could. It was only like oral or anal So like
Hayden was more of the anal. Cashton was more he liked more of the oral.
But like, so Saint was the only one that was getting the pussy.
Yeah.
So like he did share, but he had like rules. But the whole reason he shared is because she loved to be humiliated. And like he reassured Ash that he's not like, she's not deranged for liking sex, for liking porn. And then he ties her to the bed like repeatedly while she gets off on a vibrator and like makes her count it out. Like, I love that he like reassured her and then was like, I'm also gonna like make your dreams come true in the most fucked up way possible. I'm just gonna hit on like sexy scenes because I feel like if we dive too deep into the book, we're just gonna be here for like ever.
Yep.
So sexy scenes, and then I'll do like brutal scenes
because there's a bunch of brutal too.
When Saint makes Ashton put in the anal plug an hour before her ceremony with like the cell phone and then the mirror situation, dude, he makes her like prop up the phone and like fucking like basically tied down to the carpet trying to like put this butt plug in, and she's like locked in her room, and like he makes her finger her butt, and then like the butt plug vibrates and she's like, oh shit.
Again, with the butt plug in, they have to go for a ride.
And, like, this poor girl, if she's truly a virgin.
Oh, my God.
And she just had to put a butt plug in. I feel so bad for her. Like, I'm not no virgin. And I'm afraid of a butt plug.
You're like, no.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get she's, like, not inexperienced.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like...
The things he has her do, and, like, she does
really
it because she knows, like, it's going to humiliate and
really pushes her boundaries.
And there's, like, he does, like, a lot of the anal play, and I just... One of the favorites is when he makes her put in a butt plug. They go for a ride on the motorcycle, all of them, the brothers and whatnot, but he also gags her because there's, like... I'm not going to get too much into it because it's a whole thing, but... You know, she
puts on the helmet,
but
she's gagged underneath.
But you can't tell, like, it's her, you know? And that was the whole point.
Yep.
And Cashton and Hayden are trying to, like, because the helmets are mic'd up.
Yeah, they're talking to each other.
But and Saint just goes, she's not going to respond to you. She's gagged. And they're just
gagged. They think it's hysterical. And, like, this poor girl's back there, like, like, I'm gonna come. Like,
and he's like, you're not allowed.
He's like, you can't. And I'm just like, again, with the emotions, I'm like,
I'd be pissed.
I'm pissed for Ash, right? But I'm also like, you're onto something. Saint. Like, I don't know how I feel about this. And she does love it, like, at the end, right? Like, no matter how humiliated it is, no matter how much she's crying, you're reassured throughout the book that, like, this is what she wants.
Yeah.
So, again, they may feel like very rough scenes, but, like, it has been talked about. Yeah, and I think, okay, so this book, in the trigger warnings, it had blanket consent written, and I was like, what is that? Like, you can wrap me up in a blanket? I had no idea. Yeah. And I feel stupid now that I say it, but I Googled it. Yeah. And it means that if you've given consent at, like, one point, then it's game on for, like, everything. And you would need to have this conversation to make it be blanket consent, right? So that was interesting because that carries through the whole book. Yeah. So I'm glad that I, like, looked up what it was because otherwise I kind of would have been like...
You're like, where's the blanket scene?
Yeah, I'd be like, where's the blanket scene at? The ceremony was just wow. I don't want to go too deep into it.
Yes, because there was definitely speculations. Obviously, the whole...
That she wasn't going to be a virgin. But she did bleed. However, Ashton also, like, he was not gentle. It was humiliating. It was rough. And so she did bleed. So then she's kind of, like, reassured, like, well, I'm just going to, like, get off my back.
Yep.
Her therapist is going to get off my back.
Dad's going to get off my back.
Like, everybody's going to get off my back about me being a virgin. But they don't. And we find out later what happens. And that was one of the things that, like, really, like, I think that's kind of, like, what started this, like, spiral of, like, descent towards the end of the book. And that's just for your guys' personal enjoyment. I can't relive that.
No, I'm going to reread this book again because I really want to annotate. Like, I want to get the physical copy because I read it on like Kindle and whatnot because we wanted it right away.
Physical
was not
copy
gonna wait.
For me is on the way.
But, yeah, I need when I get paid to get it. Like, I'm going to get the physical copies because I really want to annotate. But all of this, like, prior to the 4-year mark, it was like a fun ride.
It was fun,
and then after the 4-year mark, like Saint is
a dick, yeah. Before we hit the 4-year mark, though, I want to talk about the media room scene.
Yes.
And I was seeing, like, TikToks about it before I'd read it, and I was like, okay. I don't want to, like, really know, but, like, I'd be like, the media room scene. And then, like, Chantel's teasers with, like, the sucker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then I get there, and I was like... I texted her, and I was like, the media room scene.
Which is 2 cherries. I'm like, oh, no.
Because I knew she wasn't there yet, so, like, I didn't want to give it away, but, like... My jaw was on the floor. Like, girl's basically, like, sleeping. Yeah. And Saint's like, nah. Yeah. Me and the brothers are gonna have her.
He texts them, like, hey, grab some things from my room and then
get down here. Yeah. Saint takes cherry sucker and, like, sticks it in her pussy and then, like, licks it. And he makes a comment that, like, cherry and pussy are his 2 favorite things. And I was just like, everything made sense.
And what kills me is, like, when this is happening, my only thought is, ooh, that UTI. Ooh, that UTI.
Don't put no stickies up there. Don't put sugar up there. So that was great. And this is all before, like, this 4-year mark. Like, they're still having fun.
They're having a great time with each other.
Saint leaves Carnage to, like, with Ash to go out, but he puts her in the bodysuit and that butt plug and the big old gag. They take her to the secluded area and tie her up on the picnic table and use her. That was hot. Yep. When Saint puts the suction cup dildo on the mirror and he makes her, like, suck this dick.
Because, like, it had, like, lines of, like, inches.
Yeah, and then it had a chain connected to her collar, so she couldn't even pull off of it all the way.
She's like,
she's bound on, like, her knees.
What is it called? Is that the Japanese...
Yeah, the rope. I know.
I will look it up. It's like she.
But yeah, that is the vision I get, and you know, she, like, can't even pull off the dick all the way. Like, he's got her chained to it. But that was just a really fun scene. Like, the way that, like, Ash was loving watching Saint watch her was like, who's having more fun here? You know? And he's training her, and it's like, are you? Are you training? They were. It was rough. Most brutal scenes?
Mm-hmm. A lot.
I mean, like when Ashton goes to Carnage for the first time, she sees, like, a girl naked and crying and being like tied up, and so, like, her first experience there
was not, like, good. And they told her, like, stay in the room.
Yeah, they told her, and she didn't listen.
Don't walk around, but she did.
They gave this poor girl, like, a pregnancy test, a hysterectomy, like, the full treatment. It was a pure torture scene. Yep. We find out she's being tortured because she killed her daughter to give her another life by, like, making it look like a suicide because they were stuck in the Lord's family. Like, that's a whole other thing. But, like, that kind of shows, like, how women are trying to get out of the Lord so badly. But then punishment's got to fit the crime. You cannot kill your child and get away with it, especially if you're part of the Lord's family.
Yeah.
Saint and his bros stepped in, and they were like, you got hysterectomy. You're basically going to stay chained to the wall in our basement until you die.
Yeah.
It's fucked
or
up.
until the Lord or whatever,
Once
the husband
decides what to do with you. So that, like, whole portion was just brutal.
And that's how we know, like, when they get initiated into Carnage, like, that's when they get their branding. That's what Ash saw, too. It's like,
the brand.
They get the branding.
Yeah.
Male or female.
It doesn't matter. Again,
you
like...
get browned.
You get brounded and branded. There was, like, that scene when, like, Saint gives Ash to Carnage, and it's, like, essentially her initiation or, like, marriage. But, like, dude, she's, like, being choked out. She's in a straitjacket. She's, like...
Yeah, because that's after the 4 years.
Yeah, like, Saint even says, like, I love you. Like, she's strapped to the table and shit. Like, it's fucked.
He is so conflicted. Like, he's wanted to find her to get revenge and to punish her. But when he does get her, all the feelings come back of, like, I love her. She's never going to leave me again. And so...
Yeah, I think this is, like, right before that happens. Because she gets her 666 on the pelvic bone.
Yeah.
But, like, she's in that, like, room with that two-way mirror.
Yeah.
And she, like, feels like somebody's watching her. And that comes into play later.
Yeah.
So it was, like, that was kind of needed to, like, know about that two-way mirror in there. But yeah, that's right before she's like, everything. I'm done. But yeah, she gets the 666 on her pelvic bone.
Oof.
It was rough. I mean, Saint even, like, sedated her and then got punished for that.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be adrenaline. Because their fathers were on the other side watching this. And then,
they were supposed to pump her with adrenaline before the brand, and they ended up, like, putting her out so she wouldn't be in fucking pain.
Because Ashton was there. Hayden wasn't there, but Ashton was there.
And Ashton also got punished for this. Yeah. We see him, like, strung up. Like, she finds him, like, strung up in the middle of the night, and there's, like, an unspoken bond.
That wasn't Ashton.
Was that Hayden?
Mm-hmm. That was Hayden.
Okay, yeah, because they have that unspoken bond about...
So maybe that wasn't Ashton. That was Hayden. I'm mixing my brothers up. But yeah, because of that.
Yeah, because Hayden was the one who took Ash out when she's leaving. It was Hayden.
Yeah.
They have this, like, weird unspoken bond.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Like, I mean, he gets her out of Carnage at one point, and that's where, like, this 4 years later happens. Like, Ash takes off.
Yeah.
She is, like, not necessarily afraid of Saint, but I think she's afraid of Carnage.
Yeah, because some shit goes down. Alarms go off. Everyone's blaming Ash for what happened.
Yes,
but it wasn't Ash.
her.
And then someone
who we don't know at the time is like, go.
Like, here are the keys you need to get. And then this is when
shit hits the fan.
Yeah, because this is when she comes out and then she essentially shoots
shoots Saint.
To be like, you're not going to let me go. So either I have to kill you. And, like, she doesn't, like, want to. But, like, that's the only way she can get out.
Yeah.
So, and that's when then the brothers come running. And,
that's really when, like, the book, like, took a turn for me. Because, like, the first bit, like, chunk of the book, it's, like, a lot of, like, background. Sex.
Yep.
Sex. Like, chapter 52, the art show.
Yeah.
Can I get an invite to one? Like, I don't want to be the human artwork.
No.
But, like, she describes, like, they're, like, women that are, like, naked or bound or gagged with their, like, chairs or, like, tables. And then, like, they're showing, like, new devices that can be used.
It was like a total...
It's like a kink
Yeah,
show.
it's like a total show and tell.
And it was wild. And, like, Saint, like, takes Ash and, like... Dude, she is so turned on and she's like frustrated by what she's seeing. She's like deep breathing and shit.
Stressed.
But they do show that one torture box that comes into play at the end of the book, and this box is like, it's got holes for
in certain places.
Yeah, but like my understanding was like you're locked in this bitch. When I was reading it, I was like, that scares me to think about.
That is something that I would never be interested in. I would never be able to do. Like, my hips could not take it.
No.
Like, my brain would be able to take it.
I was going to say, that would be more of like a brain thing for me. But whatever bra Saint had Ash wearing.
Oh, it's like spikes. It was like like you have the bras where like the spikes are out. Like
this one was like
reversed.
In. And I was like,
and it wasn't like piercing her. It was just that.
Enough to like be like, this is uncomfortable, maybe a little painful, but enough to like make me feel good.
Yeah.
All right. So this is where I'm like, I don't know how much more we discuss because really after the 4 years, shit pops off. I mean,
once you hit chapter 53, that is where there's so many twists and turns and so many emotions and feels. My jaw felt like it was just like open.
Disconnected the whole time. I was like,
oh my god, all the time. And I remember I was like reading here on the couch, and like Taryn was here, and I'm just like, what?
And really, the last like bit of the book too was when we hear a lot about Sin and Riot and Tyson. Like at one point, we hear that like the Carnage Brothers are at newly renoed Blackout. Because remember, it burns down. With Riot, Sin, and they're all like sitting at the table together, and I'm like, how cute! I know, like, look at them hanging out, not torturing I think people.
Saint is the one that says like Tyson, they've been friends for so long, and I like that they actually said like they're friends because like when we were reading Sacrifice, Tyson was like, I know these people, blah blah. Like it didn't seem like they were like friends.
It seemed like they were like business partners.
Yes, but because of what we find out in Carnage from what happens, I'll say what happens in Sacrifice particularly, that it
connects. Brings everything together.
I remember messaging you and be like, it makes sense.
Everything fell into place with this.
Because I had questions about certain parts within Sacrifice that like we didn't get a full resolution on of like who are these people, what happened,
and I've said it before. Chantel does not leave a loose thread unless she plans to pull it later. Yes. And like that was like one that I was like,
okay. I was like,
but she pulled on it, and she like tied it together with this book and like put it in a cute little bow, and I was like, well, goddamn,
like, that's who it was.
Yes. So this was great, and you know, I will say I had not read the King's books or the Kingdom books.
Yeah.
But there is a tie in Carnage. But this actually made me go to read the Kings series.
Because the Kings are in Las Vegas.
And they have some sort of, they almost seem like they run like prostitution rings, maybe like strip clubs. Like, I don't know, but I'm curious.
Yeah.
So we got them on the Kindle, and that's our next read for Shantel.
Because I want to know more.
I do. I need to know like all the ins and outs. Like I need to know more about Jasmine.
Yes, because Jasmine's with Ashton, and obviously there's something there. So I'm hoping
that gets answered, or we get some bit of information there. What?
I just realized before we get further, and like for brutal scenes. Speaking of Ashton, I will say at the end, because Ashton, he was more of the funny guy. He was just more of the jokester and whatnot. There is a scene where he absolutely loses it. And oh my god. I'm just going to say, like,
it was rough to read.
Just a hook through the chin.
It's rough, dude. I mean, he was losing his shit, though. I mean,
I was like, I don't blame you, but you
need to calm down.
Yeah, but reading this, I was like, oh, he has some anger.
The brothers were afraid to even like tell him to calm down. Like that's how we know the rage is bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
that just like hit my mind. I was like, speaking of Ashton, that's a brutal scene that I
forgot about that actually. So
he was not having it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she answered every question that I had about like Sin, Tyson, Riot. And then again, like about like Carnage, right? Yeah. Like we get to learn more there. And then she got me with like, all right, I gotta go read like the King's books now.
She just gets it.
She does. She gets it.
She reels us in.
And again, it's like so fun because it's not just like full smut. Like there's other stuff going on.
Like I said, 53, 54 and on, it is nothing but like nonstop
emotion. It's a roller coaster.
Action. And it's there. Yes, there are some little sexy scenes, but it's nothing compared to like the first part of the book. But you get to this point and then everything gets tied in, no loose ends.
And I feel like she did that with Sacrifice too. Like the first chunk of it was like smut and background, and then like the last part you're like, oh, what's happening? Yeah. I would give this one like a 4.5 out of 5 sexies, spicies.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that
I thought the center was like on top for me and Sacrifice, but Carnage?
I want to give it a 5 out of 5, but like I know we're going to get more Carnage books, so like
it's a tentative 5 out of 5, but we'll leave it at a 4.5
out of 5. It was just good plot, good story,
honestly.
Very sexy, very fucked up, very traumatizing. Yep.
Her writing just gets better and better, too, honestly.
Yes.
And how she pulls the story together, it just gets better and better.
Yes. And again, it is a standalone, but it's so much more fun if you've read the Lord's books.
And
I'm
really
sure it's a blast if you've read the King's books, too.
Probably.
Because when I was reading Carnage, I was like, I need, like, I immediately downloaded it. I was like, I need to read this next. So that's next. We'll be back with those. Because I think there's 3 or 4.
3, I think. Is there 3, 4, or there's 5? She has my Kindle.
The more, the better. But yeah, thought it was great. Probably one of my favorite books I've read this year.
Honestly, it is the top.
As far as like in like the smut area,
the dark romance smut.
This has got to be my favorite I've read this year.
Yes.
Thank you, Shantel.
Thank you, Shantel.
Thank you so much for giving us.
And now she's still like teasing us with Ashton, with his, because we're getting the 3 boys.
And I'm like, please do Ashton next.
Because Hayden is going to wreck me, and I know it.
I have a feeling the whole like Spade Brothers are gonna wreck me.
Oh yeah.
In general.
After
reading this first one, I'm like, I got me emotionally prepped.
I know.
Again. But like, thank God we could pre-order and be like, we have a month to mentally prepare, to go to therapy, to read maybe like a happy like fairy book first.
Because that's definitely like how I'm feeling. Like when you read this, you really get to see where the boys are at. And Saint 100%. Cashin is more the Joker. And I feel like with his story, I don't think, I'm probably going to eat my words, but I don't think it's going to be as emotional and like traumatizing as Carnage itself. But I feel like Hayden's is going to be fucked up. So emotional.
It's going to be fucked up. From what we've already seen, it's going to be fucked up.
Because at the very end, I will say, like, Hayden dips for a bit. Mm-hmm. And then Ashton was like, do you think he's going to come back? And Saint's like, he always comes back. This is his home. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, Hayden, my boy.
He gonna come back.
My baby.
Hopefully he's next, but...
No, it's going to be Ashton and then Hayden. Because Shantel has been posting on her TikTok, like...
I'm like, bitch, quit teasing me. Just tell me which one it is. And do you already have them written?
I know, because like, that's what I thought. Because she started teasing Ashton's, like... a few days, maybe a week after
Carnage launch. So I was like, do you have it written? Can we have it? Yeah, can we have it now? You can send us one if you want to. We'll just share it. We'll read it together.
Please, can we have, what is it called? An ARC? An advanced reader copy? Please,
can
we put it on this list?
Please, if you're watching or listening, Shantel.
Please. We love you so much.
Pretty please. Like, I vow.
I vow, you vow.
We vow. Like, we're with you, babe.
I seriously want to get a tattoo of that. Like, I have to find a spot.
I might just want, like, a little, like, spade. And I need my nipples pierced still.
We need to do that.
All right. On that note, we'll be back with, like, a movie, or we read Sabotage, too, by Shantel. So, we'll be back with those, and it's November. Turkey Week's coming up.
Turkey Week, gobble gobble.
So we watched a fucking movie, Thanksgiving. So we'll be back with that too, because that was wild. Kara's never watched a movie like that.
I've watched plenty, and I was crying. I was laughing so hard. It was great.
All right, well, we'll be back.
Okay.
Happy Thursday.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to see more from us, you can find us on Instagram at The Midnight Babes Podcast and on TikTok at The Midnight Babes. Stay spooky, friends.